They told you your home was just a place to live. Walls, furniture, colors, space. But a home is not a structure. It is a mirror. It reveals what you worship when you stop pretending. It's a living sermon carved in wood and painted in tone. What fills your house will fill your heart. What you invite through beauty, chaos, or carelessness becomes the atmosphere you breathe every day. And what you breathe becomes what you believe. There are homes that heal and homes that haunt. There are rooms that feed the soul and rooms that quietly drain it. Most families never know which they've built. They think darkness comes from outside, from the news, from the world. But often it comes from within, invited through the subtle, silent choices of how we decorate the spaces we call our own. There are 5 spirits that live in modern homes, and most have no idea they've welcomed them. They arrive not with claws, but with comfort. Not with curses, but with convenience. They hide behind design trends, self-expression, and taste. But make no mistake what you call style. Heaven calls statement. Because every object carries intention. Every color preaches mood. Every room whispers belief. And if the spirit within you is restless, the walls will echo it back. The first dark spirit enters through clutter, but clutter is not mess. It is memory without meaning. It's the energy of indecision, the fear of letting go. Every item you refuse to release becomes a whisper of attachment, saying, I do not trust that I'll be provided for again. You don't need to own everything you've outgrown to prove that it mattered. A cluttered home is a physical reflection of a cluttered soul. Too many what-ifs, too many maybes, too little presence. Chaos is the devil's favorite furniture. He sits comfortably among piles of, I'll deal with it later. But peace can't dwell where postponement reigns. When you finally clear the space, you hear your thoughts again. And when you hear your thoughts clearly, you start hearing God again. Simplicity is not emptiness. It's invitation. It says, I have made room for grace. The second dark spirit moves through vanity, disguised as elegance. It's the need for perfection that silences authenticity. Homes ruled by vanity are beautiful but brittle. Every object screams, look at me! Yet nothing says, rest here. These are homes arranged for admiration, not for love. But beauty divorced from sincerity becomes performance. You can have chandeliers that dazzle, but hearts that darken. The air feels tight because approval lives there, not peace. Vanity decorates not to honor the space, but to inflate the self. Yet the house that shines for praise quickly becomes a temple for pride, and pride always attracts shadow. Remember this, beauty becomes holy when it serves humility. The third dark spirit enters through neglect. Not neglect born of poverty, but neglect born of apathy. The slow erosion of care, the peeling paint you stopped noticing, the light bulb that's been out for months, the dust collecting where no one looks. Neglect whispers, this doesn't matter anymore, and soon that whisper grows into, I don't matter anymore. Neglect is spiritual rot. It feeds on resignation. You think you're too tired to fix it, but it's the decay that's making you tired. Every act of repair is an act of resistance. When you restore what's broken, even in your house, you declare that renewal is still possible. You tell your spirit hope still lives here. The fourth spirit hides behind disorder, disguised as freedom. The idea that structure kills creativity, that routine kills spontaneity. But chaos is not freedom. It's fatigue in disguise. The home that lacks order becomes a home where peace cannot stay. Even light needs direction to shine. The universe itself was spoken into order, and that order is what made beauty possible. Your home is no different. The unmade bed, the perpetual noise, the misplaced priorities, they do not express your soul, they exhaust it. Discipline is not the enemy of art. It's the soil where inspiration grows. God's first miracle was organization light separated from dark waters gathered, form brought from formlessness. To order your surroundings is to imitate creation itself. And the fifth dark spirit, perhaps the most dangerous, is emptiness, mistaken for minimalism. There are homes so empty they echo with fear, spaces stripped of warmth in the name of simplicity but devoid of soul. This is not peace, it's avoidance wearing designer clothes. Minimalism without meaning becomes nihilism. The goal was clarity, but the result is coldness. The house looks perfect, yet feels uninhabited. It's not the emptiness of Zen, it's the emptiness of detachment. You cannot heal a weary spirit by removing color from its world. You must fill the space with intention, with memory, art, gratitude, light. The spirit that fears attachment will never taste belonging. These are the 5 styles that invite darkness not because of what they look like, but because of what they represent. Clutter invites anxiety. Vanity invites pride. Neglect invites despair. Disorder invites confusion. Emptiness invites apathy. And all 5 share one root: forgetfulness. Forgetting that a home is a reflection of its builder's soul. Forgetting that the physical is a language for the spiritual. Forgetting that light, literal or divine, needs to be tended. You can pray for peace all day, but if your environment contradicts your prayer, your spirit will not believe you. But the good news is this: for every dark invitation, there is a bright reversal. The cure for clutter is gratitude, the decision to keep only what reminds you of abundance, not fear. The cure for vanity is sincerity, decorating not to impress, but to express. The cure for neglect is attention small, consistent care that tells heaven you are still awake. The cure for disorder is rhythm, the creation of peace through structure. And the cure for emptiness is presence, the willingness to let your heart be visible in your space. When you cleanse a room, you cleanse the unseen. When you arrange with intention, you arrange your energy. When you light a candle with gratitude, you are not chasing an aesthetic, you are declaring order in a universe of chaos. There is no witchcraft stronger than forgetfulness, and no exorcism stronger than awareness. Remember, the devil doesn't enter through horror, he enters through habit. Darkness is not an event, it's an erosion. But so is light. Every small act of beauty becomes a resurrection. Every moment of order becomes a prayer. Every corner that glows with care becomes a silent hallelujah. Your home does not need to be perfect. It only needs to be honest. Let it tell the truth about who you are becoming, not who you are pretending to be. The walls listen. The air remembers. The soul of a home is the accumulation of intention. So choose carefully. Choose to bless rather than boast, to simplify rather than hoard, to repair rather than replace, to love rather than label, to live as though every room were a sermon about grace, because it is. And you begin to see that darkness rarely announces itself. It does not crash through the door. It seeps through neglect, through unguarded habits, through the silent exchange of meaning for appearance. The modern world has trained us to decorate our prisons. We buy more cushions for cages, more light for rooms that still feel cold, more images for walls that still cannot remember joy. We are drowning in options, yet starving for peace. It is not the house that exhausts us. It is what we allow to live in it. Every object speaks. The framed words you hang, the colors you choose, the things you keep out of guilt, all of it tells the atmosphere what story to repeat. If you fill your space with nostalgia that numbs instead of nourishes, your home becomes a museum of regret. If you fill it with images that glorify vanity, it begins to worship itself. If you keep too many things that no longer serve the person you are becoming, you keep inviting yesterday to sit at today's table. Walk through your own room slowly. Look at each thing, not as furniture, but as a mirror. Ask, does this give me strength, or does it steal it? Does this remind me of abundance or of lack? Do I feel lighter here or heavier? The answers will not come in thunder, but in a whisper, a tightening in the chest, a small sigh. That is your spirit trying to speak through the clutter. And if you listen, you will begin to feel which corners need cleansing and which memories need releasing. For the home, like the heart, collects everything you refuse to face. The closet filled with old ambitions is a shrine to the person who never believed they could change. The shelves, stacked with unread books, speak of curiosity buried under distraction. The cracks you stopped noticing tell a story about how slowly the soul learns to ignore its own brokenness. You do not just live in rooms, they live in you. The first step to reclaiming light is awareness. Do not rush to buy new things. Cleanse your sight. See what has been hiding in plain view. You will realize that peace was never expensive, only covered. The dust on the lamp, the pile on the table, the drawer of useless things, they are small symbols of a deeper forgetting. The forgetting that your space is sacred because you are sacred. The moment you treat the ordinary as holy, the atmosphere changes. The air itself starts to feel like prayer. Do not mistake minimalism for meaning nor luxury for light. You can have simplicity without soul and wealth without wonder. Some of the darkest rooms gleam with order but lack warmth. And some of the holiest spaces are humble. A cracked table, a single candle, a sense of peace that cannot be purchased. The difference is intention. One is built for display, the other is built for dwelling. God never asked for perfect architecture, only presence. And presence requires participation. You cannot outsource soul. The house you love will begin to love you back, but only when you pay attention. Wipe the counter, not because it is dirty, but because cleanliness is gratitude made visible. Fold the blanket, not because someone might see, but because order is dignity made physical. The smallest act of care carries more light than the largest act of purchase. Every sweep of the broom is a silent declaration. This place matters. I matter. The second movement of cleansing is beauty. Beauty, when sincere, is a prayer. But when driven by ego, it becomes a spell that traps rather than frees. There is a difference between a home that expresses joy and one that demands attention. The first gives, the second takes. You can feel it the moment you walk in. Some houses hum quietly with peace. Others shout insecurity. The difference is the motive behind the design. True beauty is humble. It never tries to dominate the eye. It tries to rest it. You can sense when a space is arranged by a restless soul. Everything screams newness, novelty, noise. Every wall competes with the next. There is no silence, only stimulation. These are homes that mirror the modern mind, overfed and undernourished. But the soul does not thrive on spectacle. It thrives on simplicity that breathes. A single object chosen with love carries more holiness than 1,000 decorations chosen for show. To banish darkness, you must replace display with devotion. Choose one corner and make it a sanctuary. Place something living there, a plant, a candle, a book of wisdom, a symbol that grounds you. Let that corner become your compass. Each time you pass it, pause and breathe. Remind yourself that peace begins wherever you decide to honor it. Soon, that feeling will spread through the house like light through glass. And then comes the spirit of neglect, whispering that you are too tired to care. But apathy is never cured by waiting for energy. It is cured by creating it. The act of care is the cure. When you wash a dish, you wash more than glass. You wash the dullness from your day. When you fix a broken hinge, you fix something invisible inside you. The smallest restoration reminds the soul that decay is not destiny. You were made in the image of a creator, and every time you create order, you return to that likeness. Neglect feeds on shame. It tells you it's too late, that you failed, that effort won't matter. But grace lives in motion. The moment you start, heaven starts with you. One light bulb replaced becomes a metaphor for renewal. One act of cleaning becomes a prayer of defiance against despair. The darkness you fight in the material reflects the darkness you're reclaiming in the spiritual. Every improvement is both home repair and heart repair. As you do this, you'll begin to understand why the ancients saw space as sacred geometry. The arrangement of things affects the arrangement of thought. The corner that used to drain you will begin to feed you once its energy is corrected. The room that felt heavy will start to hum with freshness. It isn't magic, it's alignment. A home in order invites a mind in peace, and a mind in peace becomes a conduit for divine creativity. And when you finally reach the spirit of disorder, you must confront the truth. Chaos is seductive because it offers escape. People say they hate mess, but secretly they use it to avoid themselves. If everything around you is loud, you don't have to face the silence within. But silence is where healing lives. Bring rhythm into your day, not rigidity, but reverence. Morning rituals that remind you who you are. Evening moments that close the day with gratitude. You don't need a monastery to feel holy. You need consistency to feel human. Then there is emptiness, the fifth and most deceptive spirit. It tells you that meaning is heavy, that attachment is weakness, that caring is outdated. It convinces you to strip your space until nothing remains that could hurt you. But a heart without tenderness is already a grave. You were not designed for detachment. You were designed for devotion. Let color return. Let warmth return. Let laughter echo again. Fill the air with music, with light, with evidence that love has lived here. Minimalism is sacred only when it serves gratitude, not fear. By now you see that none of these spirits are external. They are reflections of inner states. A cluttered home mirrors confusion. A vain home mirrors pride. A neglected home mirrors despair. A disordered home mirrors avoidance. An empty home mirrors fear. And when you heal the house, you heal the mirror. God moves freely where awareness dwells. The moment you choose presence over perfection, your home becomes a temple. You may think this is metaphor, but watch what happens when you act on it. Watch how arguments soften when you open windows and let light in. Watch how your thoughts calm when you declutter the desk. Watch how gratitude returns when you light a candle in silence. The physical world is not separate from the spiritual. It is its shadow. As above, so below. As within, so without. You change one, you influence both. Remember this: darkness never dies. It just retreats from light. Keep the light burning, not through fear, but through faith. Faith that your presence matters. Faith that your space can be holy even in chaos. Faith that beauty, when born from love, is stronger than any shadow. The home is not a destination. It is a discipline. It asks you every day, what spirit will you invite today? You start to notice that the light feels different when the room breathes again. The air hums with clarity. The corners that once carried weight now whisper freedom. It isn't that you brought something new into your house. It's that you removed what was stealing its spirit. You begin to understand why stillness feels sacred, because stillness is truth unmasked. The home now speaks back, not in words, but in peace. And peace, once invited, never leaves on its own. It must be dismissed through neglect. A clean table becomes a covenant. An open window becomes prayer. A soft light becomes forgiveness. Everything in creation carries a purpose when you align it with intention. God built the earth with order, yet filled it with wonder. He balanced structure with surprise. And that is how you must design your dwelling: enough order for peace, enough freedom for joy. Because a house too perfect becomes a museum, and a house too careless becomes a battlefield. Balance is not in symmetry, it is in sincerity. Many decorate to impress the eye, but few decorate to heal the soul. They fill their rooms with trends, but leave no space for truth. The magazines show perfection, but perfection has no pulse. You cannot breathe in a room built for approval. You can only pose in it. Yet the moment you decorate from love, from gratitude, from presence, the energy changes. A picture on the wall becomes a testimony. A simple chair becomes an altar of rest. The lamp's glow becomes a reminder that light was never meant to blind, only to reveal. And you begin to see that beauty itself is holy when it teaches humility. True beauty does not scream, it soothes. It does not compete, it completes. It does not demand to be seen. It allows you to see better. The eye that learns to find grace in simplicity begins to see God everywhere. When you train your sight to appreciate what is already there, you stop begging heaven for proof. Gratitude is revelation in disguise. The first transformation happens in silence. Silence is not emptiness, it is sacred dialogue. When you pause long enough, your home will start teaching you. The sound of your footsteps on the floor becomes a reminder that you are still alive. The rhythm of the clock becomes a meditation on time. Even the creak of the door tells you something, that nothing, not even wood, remains untouched by life. You do not need more things. You need more awareness of what things mean. Awareness is the beginning of mastery. The devil thrives on ignorance, not darkness itself, but the blindness that allows darkness to stay. When you do not see the mess, the energy, the patterns, you become a host to forces you never chose. But once you see, you can never unsee. That is why awareness is the true exorcism. It replaces superstition with stewardship. The holy man and the homemaker are not different beings. Both serve order through love. And as you clean, something inside you starts to echo the same rhythm. The drawers you empty mirror the thoughts you release. The dust you wipe off mirrors the guilt you've carried. The space you open mirrors the freedom you've been praying for. You realize that you were never simply tidying, you were repenting. You were making the inner world visible through the outer one. God doesn't only live in churches. He lives in patterns. Every time you restore order, you reenact creation. Let there be light is not a past command. It is a daily one. Every switch you turn on continues that miracle. Every space you redeem declares that chaos has not won. You become a co-creator, not by magic, but by meaning. But beware, because the dark spirits never vanish entirely. They return in disguise, busyness dressed as purpose, accumulation dressed as security, comparison dressed as taste. They whisper that you need more, that peace is on the next purchase, the next renovation, the next trend. But peace has never been for sale. You cannot buy what you refuse to become. You could rebuild your house 1,000 times and still carry the same unrest, because the home you are truly trying to fix is the one behind your ribs. So begin there. Declutter your inner room. Sweep away resentment. Dust off forgotten gratitude. Rearrange priorities until love becomes the centerpiece again. Throw out the old excuses that no longer fit the life you are becoming. Repaint your perspective. Let light back into the windows of your imagination. You don't need to start over. You need to start seeing. And when you do, the transformation spills outward naturally. You will find yourself wanting to simplify not from lack, but from clarity. You will give things away easily, not because you reject them, but because you now understand their purpose was temporary. You will notice that generosity becomes design. Your house begins to breathe compassion. Strangers feel safe. Friends linger longer. The energy shifts, and people will ask, why? You will smile and know that the light they feel is the reflection of your gratitude. Do not underestimate this. A home full of gratitude becomes a fortress against despair. A space where thankfulness is practiced becomes impenetrable to bitterness. The moment you bless what you have, darkness loses jurisdiction. No shadow can live where appreciation reigns. Gratitude is the most elegant interior design in the universe. But even gratitude must be renewed daily. You cannot store it. It fades if you do not express it. Speak it aloud. Say it when you pour your morning drink. Say it when you fold the laundry. Say it when the day feels heavy. Each word of thanks polishes the air, restores the atmosphere, invites divine attention. The angels do not visit the loudest homes. They visit the ones that hum with thankfulness. Then something miraculous happens. Your home begins to teach others. Guests come and leave lighter. Children grow up learning that peace is not luck, but discipline. Even those who oppose you will feel disarmed, because love that is practiced in silence radiates louder than sermons. And all of it begins with design not of color, but of character. You realize then that home decoration is not an art of materials, but of meaning. Every design choice is a spiritual act. The rug under your feet can remind you of grounding. The light above your head can remind you of guidance. The table can remind you of communion. The door can remind you that freedom always requires thresholds. When you live with this awareness, your entire house becomes symbolic. Every detail preaches to your soul, quietly, faithfully, endlessly. This is what most families have forgotten. They think they need new furniture when they need new focus. They think the darkness is outside when it has been sitting inside the heart's arrangement all along. They think holiness is ceremony when it is really consistency. But the moment one person in a home chooses awareness, the entire atmosphere begins to lift. It takes only one candle to redefine the room. So let your presence be that candle. Let your intention be that light. You do not have to preach to your children. Show them peace by how you keep your space. You do not have to convince your spouse. Let your calm rearrange the energy of the day. You do not have to fear the darkness anymore. Teach it to fear your awareness. Because where there is awareness, there is authority. And authority is not domination. It is dominion born of love. It is the quiet power to maintain peace without violence, to say no to chaos without anger, to set boundaries without bitterness. Every time you choose to maintain harmony instead of feeding conflict, you are practicing divine design. You are decorating with discipline, and discipline is holy. This is the essence of life in the modern age, to remember that the spiritual has not disappeared. It has been disguised. The war is no longer in cathedrals and temples. It's in living rooms, kitchens, screens, schedules. Every choice is an invitation. Every habit is a doorway. The atmosphere you build daily is either sanctuary or snare. You must decide which. And once you decide, do not turn back. Light requires consistency. Keep tending it, gently but relentlessly. Rearrange when you feel drift. Refresh when you feel dullness. Recommit when you feel tired. The battle between darkness and light is not fought once it is renewed every morning with every breath of awareness. But the more you practice, the less effort it takes. Peace becomes muscle memory. Gratitude becomes reflex. Love becomes architecture. Then, without realizing it, your house will become sermon and symphony. Every detail will preach silently to every guest. Here lives someone who remembers that beauty was meant to bless, not boast. And the dark spirits will pass your threshold and turn away, blinded by the quiet radiance of order, gratitude, and love. And now you start to realize that the home was never just a building. It was always a reflection of the invisible kingdom inside you. Every pattern on the wall, every sound that fills the air, every object resting in silence, all of it forms a chorus of your consciousness. You thought you were decorating. You were declaring. You thought you were choosing colors. You were revealing convictions. The spirit of a person can be read in the atmosphere of their room. Some houses shout anxiety. Some whisper peace. Some hum with gratitude. Others ache with unspoken sorrow. But every home tells the truth its owner refuses to speak. You may think this is superstition, but look deeper. Why does disorder drain you? Why does symmetry soothe you? Why does light on a clean surface make your chest feel open again? Because the soul responds to harmony instinctively. The Creator designed you to resonate with order. Even your heartbeat follows rhythm. Even your breath follows pattern. Chaos is not creative energy. It is spiritual noise. The universe was born when God said, "Let there be light, not let there be clutter." Light was the first act of organization. You must understand this. Energy does not lie. If you come home and instantly feel unrest, it is not random. The walls absorb intention. The air holds memory. The objects remember how you felt when you last touched them. That's why the chair where you cried still feels heavy. That's why the desk where you dream feels alive. The home is alive with echoes. And when you begin to treat it like a living thing, it begins to respond like one. Bless what you touch. Speak kindness into the air. Pray while you clean. Whisper gratitude into every motion. You will feel the vibration change first inside, then all around you. Most families live unaware of this divine technology, the spiritual architecture of space. They fill their homes with lifeless art and call it modernity. They play noise to hide the silence. They eat without conversation, sleep without reflection, and wonder why joy never stays. The dark spirits don't enter through rituals or symbols. They enter through indifference, through forgetting that your space was meant to be sacred, through treating the gift of atmosphere as disposable. Every careless moment becomes an invitation to heaviness. Every act of attention becomes an invitation to heaven. There are families whose houses look rich but feel poor marble floors, golden lamps, empty laughter. And there are families who live in small apartments where the air feels alive, where every meal tastes like peace, where every corner glows with grace. The difference is not decoration, it is devotion. One builds for status, the other builds for spirit. And when the spirit of gratitude dwells somewhere, darkness loses its appetite. But gratitude alone is not enough. It must be joined by discipline. Without maintenance, light dims. Without intention, order decays. Your home must be watered like a garden. The same way weeds grow in neglected soil, disorder returns to neglected spaces. You do not clean once, you tend forever. You do not declutter once, you practice discernment daily. Discipline is the guardian of peace. Without it, even gratitude gets lazy. To tend your home is to tend your destiny, because destiny is not found in great leaps, but in the daily repetition of reverence. You cannot invite success into a home ruled by chaos. Wealth will not stay where waste reigns. Opportunity will not linger where order is ignored. The atmosphere you cultivate determines the kind of abundance you can hold. The universe respects stewardship more than ambition. Think of every item you own as a relationship. Some strengthen you, some weaken you, some are overdue for farewell. And just as toxic relationships drain your energy, toxic possessions drain your peace. You must be courageous enough to let go. Detachment is not loss, it is liberation. Every time you release something that no longer serves you, you create a vacuum where grace can enter. God cannot fill what you refuse to empty. And when you empty with intention, the Spirit fills the space with meaning. You will notice how certain areas begin to radiate calm, how conversations grow softer, how laughter sounds clearer. It's not luck, it's alignment. The physical mirrors the spiritual. Your outer order starts to restore your inner authority. You begin to walk through your home like a king again, not arrogant, but aware, because dominion was always your inheritance. You were never meant to be a guest in your own home. You were meant to be a priest, a protector, a creator. But beware of one subtle temptation, perfectionism disguised as holiness. The moment you start obsessing over control, the light becomes brittle again. You cannot micromanage peace. You must tend it, not police it. Holiness is harmony, not rigidity. Let the imperfection remind you that grace lives here. A smudge on the glass, a scratch on the table, a mismatch of color, these are the fingerprints of reality. Beauty without imperfection is pride pretending to be purity. Learn to love the human marks in your home. They remind you that you are alive, and you will find, as your awareness grows, that every act of care you offer to your space teaches you how to care for yourself. You will stop demanding perfection from your soul once you learn to love imperfection in your home. You will stop chasing validation once you learn to find beauty in simplicity. You will stop fearing lack once you realize abundance was never measured in things, but in the peace those things carried. A wealthy man with no peace is poorer than a monk with serenity. Because peace cannot be purchased, it must be practiced. Every morning you wake and open your eyes, the first breath is an invitation. Will you build a temple or a trap today? The decision begins with what you allow to live in your space. If you wake to clutter, clean it as an act of prayer. If you see something broken, fix it as an act of hope. If you feel something missing, give instead of grasp. You will feel heaven return with each simple gesture. The supernatural hides in the ordinary. The miracle is not that God visits your home, it's that he never left. You only stopped recognizing him, and as this realization deepens, you begin to see why so many families live restless. Their walls are heavy with comparison, their air filled with distraction, their rooms haunted by noise. They have forgotten silence, forgotten gratitude, forgotten reverence. They decorate their despair with fashion and call it progress. But a home built without meaning becomes a hotel for fatigue. You can't rest in a place that doesn't remember you. So teach your home to remember. Speak blessings into it. Name the rooms. Dedicate them with purpose. Let the kitchen be for nourishment and laughter. Let the bedroom be for rest and renewal. Let the living room be for communion, not competition. Let the doorway be for peace. Every time you walk in, leave your worries outside. Train your mind like you train your body through repetition. Soon the spiritual architecture will rebuild itself. When this happens, you will understand the secret of energy. It follows meaning. Everything that loses meaning begins to decay. But the moment you give meaning back, it comes alive again. That's why even old things start to look new when loved. That's why tired rooms come back to life after gratitude enters. You are not just maintaining your home, you are resurrecting it. And when the home resurrects, so does the heart. The family begins to speak differently. The atmosphere heals arguments before they happen. The children learn calmness not from words, but from vibration. They learn reverence not from lectures, but from example. The husband comes home lighter. The wife breathes deeper. The walls glow softly with peace. It's not fantasy, it's frequency. You aligned heaven and earth through awareness. Do not underestimate how powerful that is. One home aligned with heaven can change an entire street. Light spreads faster than shadow ever could. Neighbors begin to feel different. They don't know why, but they feel safer. You have become a quiet intercessor for your community without saying a word. The world does not need louder preachers. It needs living examples. Your home can be that sermon. And so, when night comes and you light your candle or dim your lamp, pause. Look around. Feel the stillness you've created. Realize that every breath of peace you take now ripples into eternity. The light in your window might be the only reminder someone needs that not all homes are cold, that not all hearts are dark, that not all beauty has been bought. You are now a keeper of atmosphere, a guardian of meaning. You are proof that holiness can live in modern walls, and the dark spirits, clutter, vanity, neglect, disorder, emptiness, they know they have lost their hold, because light does not argue, it replaces. And when you finally understand that light is not decoration but direction, the whole atmosphere of life begins to rearrange itself around you. You stop moving furniture and start moving frequency. You stop chasing the look of peace and begin to cultivate its language. Every surface becomes a reminder of something eternal. Every chair invites conversation rather than competition. Every wall becomes an opportunity for reflection rather than display. You realize that God never cared about the brand of your lamp. He cared about whether the lamp burned with meaning. The darkness that once hid behind the clutter begins to dissolve, and you see how subtly it had been teaching you to tolerate disorder. Chaos never conquers. It convinces. It convinces you that you deal with it later, that a little noise is normal, that peace is for other people. But now you see its pattern. You see how every small neglect leads to numbness, how every act of inattention drains power. The devil's first victory was not temptation but distraction. The moment you lose awareness, you lose dominion. But awareness has returned. You begin to live like an artist again, shaping your days with sacred rhythm. Morning no longer arrives as a blur. It enters like a visitor you welcome. The small rituals, the making of the bed, the brewing of the drink, the opening of the window all become acts of gratitude. You do not rush them anymore. You perform them as prayers of alignment. Every repetition tells your spirit, order has come again. You start to notice that time itself feels slower, not because hours changed, but because presence expanded. Presence stretches moments into meaning. Soon you are drawn to light, not artificial brightness, but authentic warmth. You move your chair toward the Sunday. You let real air cross the room. You choose materials that breathe, colors that calm, objects that carry story. The home starts to feel alive because you are alive. Beauty becomes relational. You don't decorate to fill space, you decorate to express soul. The energy of the room follows the rhythm of your intention, and intention is the highest art. The cluttered corners no longer tempt you. The urge to buy for comfort begins to fade. You no longer ask, what would look good here, but what truth should live here? The answer comes softly. Simplicity, gratitude, honesty, care. These are the real luxuries. You realize that even the poorest home can feel wealthy when gratitude fills it, and even the richest palace can feel cursed when pride dominates it. Wealth without wonder is poverty in disguise. And then the final test comes, the test of endurance, the moment when the glow of renewal begins to fade into routine. This is where most people fall back asleep. They think peace is a feeling. It is a practice. Feelings change, but awareness must be chosen. Keep choosing it. Keep tending the light. Some days you'll wake up tired. But remember, even a dim candle still casts truth into the dark. Keep lighting it. Do not fear when mess returns. Mess is part of movement. Life grows, growth sheds. Shedding creates residue. The goal is not sterility, but stewardship. A home that is too spotless is as lifeless as a heart that is too guarded. Let it live. Let it breathe. Let it be human. Clean when you can, rest when you must, but never abandon awareness. Awareness is not work, it is worship. Then something miraculous happens. You begin to see that this philosophy extends far beyond your house. Your conversations start to mirror the same balance, less clutter, more clarity. Your relationships mirror the same order, less control, more compassion. Your career mirrors the same devotion, less chasing, more creation. You realize that home was only the rehearsal. The real temple was your entire life. You start walking through the world differently. You no longer step into spaces unconsciously. You bless them with presence. Every room you enter brightens slightly because you carry light, not just emit it. People notice but can't explain it. They ask if you've changed jobs, if you're in love, if you found religion. You smile because you know the answer is simpler and deeper. You found alignment. You remembered that light belongs to those who tend it. And that is when you understand the truest meaning of dark spirit. It was never a creature stalking shadows. It was forgetfulness itself, the loss of sacred attention. Every act of indifference was its invitation. Every act of awareness its banishment. The only real witchcraft was unconsciousness, people living without noticing, buying without meaning, talking without listening, decorating without soul. But that spell has broken now. You are awake. You walk through your home at night and everything feels alive. The chair seems to rest, the books seem to breathe, the light hums softly like a heartbeat. Nothing has changed, yet everything has transformed. That's what awakening does. It doesn't create new worlds. It reveals the holiness of the one you already inhabit. You were not meant to escape the ordinary. You were meant to transfigure it. In that stillness, you realize that every home, every single home, has the potential to become a sanctuary. Not because of its architecture, but because of its atmosphere. Sanctity is not about perfection. It's about purpose. The moment you dedicate your home to peace, it becomes holy ground. It doesn't matter if it's a mansion or a studio, a palace or a rented room. Holiness is not square footage. It's frequency. It's the energy that says, here love lives. You might look around and see flaws, the cracks, the stains, the scars. But remember, even temples have weathered stone. Perfection was never the proof of divinity. Presence was. And presence is what you now carry. The sacred is not elsewhere. It's right here, in the way your hand rests on the doorknob, in the sound of laughter at dinner, in the quiet gratitude that rises before sleep. These are your sacraments now. And slowly you understand why C.S. Lewis said that there are no ordinary people, because there are no ordinary places either. Every human soul and every home it inhabits is a battleground between remembrance and forgetfulness, between creation and decay, between love and indifference. Every act of awareness tips the scale. You do not need to fight darkness. You need to outshine it. You do not need to curse the chaos. You need to create meaning. That is your holy work. And so you begin to bless the ordinary. The dishes become disciples of patience. The broom becomes a teacher of humility. The candle becomes a symbol of hope. Every act, however small, becomes sacred when done with awareness. This is the new faith, not in superstition, not in fear, but in the profound dignity of daily life. You stop waiting for miracles because you realize you are surrounded by them. When you walk outside, the world seems different. The sky is no longer background. It is cathedral. The trees are not decoration. They are witnesses. The wind carries messages. The rain baptizes thought. And even the silence of night feels like a conversation between heaven and earth. You understand that God never left the material world. We just stopped recognizing his handwriting on it. Now you see it everywhere. You see him in the order you maintain, in the peace you protect, in the beauty you preserve. You see him in the laughter of your children and in the patience of your spouse. You see him in the work of your hands, in the food you prepare, in the way you bless before you begin. This is wealth. Not coins, not titles, not possessions, but harmony with meaning. You are rich the moment you feel gratitude without needing more. And as the understanding settles deeper, you realize that getting rich, changing yourself, living positively, all the modern goals were never separate from this. They were simply distorted echoes of one eternal truth, that when the soul is in order, everything else follows. The true prosperity gospel is not about money, it's about mastery. The mastery of self, the stewardship of spirit, the alignment of matter and meaning. When you live like that, wealth becomes inevitable because you radiate value. People who meet you will sense stability, not arrogance. They will feel inspired without knowing why. You will attract opportunity because you have become opportunity, the opportunity for others to experience light in human form. And that, at last, is success that cannot be stolen. So when you wake tomorrow, do not rush to rearrange your furniture. Rearrange your focus. Look at your home, your life, your mind, and ask one question. Does this reflect the light I want to live in? If the answer is no, change it not with panic, but with patience. Begin where you are. Bless what you touch. Tend what you see. And soon the unseen will shift. Because heaven has always been waiting to inhabit the spaces we prepare for it. The angels do not need cathedrals. They need awareness. And awareness begins with you, the keeper of your home, the architect of your energy, the designer of your peace.